This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the kickoff for the OGC Disaster Pilot 2021. I'm Josh Lieberman, the lead for this initiative, and one of a number of OGC staff members who are going to help us to carry off this pilot activity. A number of sponsors and supporters who've helped make it possible. A bunch of terrific participants who are going to actually execute the pilot activity, and many collaborating organizations who will help us to follow a path to devising real value from this pilot activity. So let me just go over the agenda here. First of all, let me let you know that you've succeeded, if you're hearing this, in connecting to the GoToMeeting web conference facility, which we will use pretty much for every event and meeting that we have. And just to draw your attention, as I said earlier, we will record these meetings and make it available to the participants and stakeholders in this initiative, but not without seeking permission from the attendees on the call making any of this public. So this is part of the execution of the initiative and part of the context within which we carry that out. You'll notice that I'm sharing my screen, and anyone who is presenting and so on can do that as well. So that will be an option. You can present your own material. You can send material to me or other staff members to present. And you can also point at material on the web for all of us to look at during a talk or reference. The other thing that I'd like to point out is that we do have a chat log, a chat window, and I recommend that we use the chat window early and often for comments, questions, notes, references, anything. And we will be also saving the chat log content as part of the record of these meetings. So let's look quickly at the agenda. You're now in the welcome phase here, and that will be from me, from other members of the OGC, and from the sponsor representatives as well, and we'll get that in a minute. We'll go to about 10:45. These are all in US Eastern Daylight Time, so it's 10:10 right now in the web conference time zone, and I apologize and appreciate everyone from other time zones, particularly the ones that lead to them being up late at night or other inconvenient times. We're really hugely appreciative. We'll, in terms of scheduling, try to be a bit diverse in the times that we hold our other encounters, but that's part of what we will work out as we develop the logistics and the plan for going forward. At 10:45 to 11:15, I'll go over some of the design and logistics of the pilot that we'll be trying to follow, some outline, at least a little more than an outline, the framework of what the participant components and contributions and the other stakeholders will be working together to develop and test and derive experience from that will go into our reports, our readiness guidance documents, and other events and outreach that will be part of this pilot that we're still coming across and having the opportunity to participate in. Then from 11:15 to 12, we'll get started on the participant component presentations. And we're going to do this, it's going to be brief, and there'll be the opportunity to contribute more about the plans and designs and so on that the participants will be undertaking. And we'll go over in the logistics a bit about how we'll go about that, generally using the GitLab repository that's part of the collaboration tools we have for this initiative. So we'll go component by component and just hear briefly from each of the providers of that particular component what their plans are and their particular capabilities that they're going to contribute. We'll take a break from noon to 12:15. We'll keep the web conference going, but we'll definitely need some time to take care of the other elements of living in that time. And then from 12:15 to 2, the end of our teleconference, we will go through more of the participant presentations. And these will be very brief and fast, so there won't be a lot of time to discuss. The discussion will be largely tomorrow, but feel free to ask questions or provide feedback in the chat for any of the participant presentations. And we'll use those as fodder for Tuesday. So tomorrow, same time frame, 10 to 2 p.m. And we'll have in the morning discussions based on the presentations that we've heard today. We'll have two main discussions in the kickoff time and many others that we'll have as far as particular interactions, particular plans, and how that connects to the scenarios that we're going to implement. 10 to 11, we'll discuss data, which is generally the choke point for any of these initiatives. And we'll talk about specific kinds of data, specific sources and data sets, as well as what analysis-ready data, what decision-ready information mean, how we're going to develop the best working definitions we can, and contribute to specifying what those are and when is data or information or indicators one of these designations, and how it plays a part in the data and decision flow that we're trying to implement in the pilot. 11 to 12 will discuss these pivotal interoperability points where our understanding from many stakeholders and use of space-based EO and in situ data for disaster management, where those choke points are that and this time scale that's needed, that data just doesn't get across these interoperability points to the right people at the right time in the right form. So we'll talk about those interoperability points and how the pilot ecosystem will address those, try to relieve the flow of data and collaboration at those points. Again, 12 to 12:15, we'll have a break, and then we're going to turn our attention on Tuesday afternoon to planning for the workshop, which we will or are intending to hold. Never know what will come our way, but our intention is to hold that the 14th and 15th of July. Same format, virtual format, slightly different audience. I think we'll have more of the stakeholders who can provide us useful feedback and collaboration to keep our efforts anchored to real needs of relief organizations and providers. So we'll go over the workshop concept from 12:15 to 12:30. Then we'll have 3 sessions, and these are largely planning for what we'll work on in the workshop and how we'll go about that, the stakeholders and roles, how those are identified and empowered, the recipe development. So there is plenty of expert advice on useful, actionable information, indicators, metrics that we can use these various data sources to produce, but we want to see how that recipe development and production can be more dynamic in the pilot ecosystem. And as part of that, we want to see if those recipes and that rapid development and production can be tied to rapid collaboration and decision loops as among various stakeholders from the ground to the sky and back again. So those workshop planning sessions will conclude our kickoff workshop on Tuesday. So also as part of logistics, we will be planning at least weekly web conferences between the participants, the sponsors, and so on, with probably many ad hoc calls and asynchronous collaboration to continue all of the discussions and work that we start in these 2 days. So with that, let me continue the welcome by inviting members of the OGC team who are on the call to turn on their cameras briefly and say hello and just identify themselves. I realize that many of you are old hands and very familiar to us and from us, but for especially those of you who are joining an OGC pilot for the first time, welcome, heartfelt welcome. Let us know any way we can help you, and here are the people that you can work with. Marie-Françoise, you want to go ahead?
So, good morning, good afternoon. My name is Marie-Françoise Waudreau. I work with the Innovation Program in Europe and support here Josh for whichever need you can have, either in Spanish or to engage with European stakeholders. I'm really impressed by the number you are here. And this is really great because I was working with Météo France before. I'm very sensitive to the disasters, and it's something where we are never ready enough. So this is great that we have so many participants. I'm super happy about that. Ingo?
Ingo.
Ah, you're muted.
Yeah, well, I can only add to that. I'm super impressed by 91 participants for an OGC pilot. That's great work. So thank you very much for the team that prepared that pilot activity. And thank you very much to our sponsoring organizations to make this initiative happen. I'm super happy that we can finally kick off this initiative. We had 2 concept development studies that helped developing the pilot, and I'm excited by the selection of participants that will develop and explore solutions and probably will identify further gap that we can then address in the innovation program in OGC, so that we can help making the handling of the disasters a bit more efficient in practice and future. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, Ingo and Marie-Françoise. Alan, just say a quick hi.
Yeah, I just want to say hi and worked on the health concept development study, and very eager to see this move forward, having worked on the response to 9/11 and Hurricane Sandy and seeing all the data snafus. This is just a wonderful way to hopefully untangle it and increase capabilities.
Thanks, Alan. Nadine and Mark, if you'd like to say a quick hi.
Hi, this is Mark. Yeah. Hi, good morning, good day to everyone. I've been involved in the health CDS with Alan and supporting the disasters pilot activity as well. And I'll be working to pull together a stakeholder coordination group to make sure that we have a direct line of communication with the user community and the stakeholders that stand to benefit from the work being done with the pilot. And I'm hoping that it'll create a great bridge between the technical work that's going on here and opportunities to interact directly with the community.
Yeah, this is Nadine. I don't have my camera on because I'm on the phone, but I really didn't want to miss this kickoff. I am very grateful that we have all, this amazing team. We talk about OGC being a collective problem-solving global organization, and this is you guys, and this is amazing. And this, I'm happy, like Ingo said, that we're finally kicking this off. This initiative has a lot of passion behind it, so I want to just acknowledge the passion of Rich Fraser and Ivan Deloitte and Angelica and Josh and Marie-Françoise and Cameron Wilson and Ryan Ahola and our whole Canada partners, Mark Corver. I mean, I could go on, but you will see it for yourself, I hope. There's so much passion in this group of people, and I think that's why we have 91 people on the line. So thank you, everybody. And everybody's watching, by the way. Just this week, we have 3 talks about this initiative at the Geosymposium. So everyone is watching and looking forward to those recipes so we don't all reinvent this wheel over and over again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nadine. So let me just run this by again. This is part of our logistics, but I'll cover it before turning to our sponsors. Please be aware this initiative is being conducted under the OGC policy regarding intellectual property rights. At this time, anyone in attendance should inform us, if they are personally aware of any claims under any patent applications or issued patents that would likely to be infringed by an implementation of the standard of work product that's in this initiative. You don't have to be the inventor of such patent or patent application in order to inform us of its existence, nor will be held responsible for expressing a belief that turns out to be inaccurate. We just need to acknowledge whenever possible that their work might touch on intellectual property rights, but of course, everyone's property rights as they participate in these initiatives are their own to do as they see fit. That said, OGC is about fair, and so we prize the openness which lets more people benefit from the work and value that we bring to the pilot initiative. So that said, let me thank the supporters and sponsors who've made this initiative possible and invite them to welcome us to this work at hand. USGS, FGDC, NRCan, NASA, and our supporters, including but not limited to Amazon Web Services, AmeriGeo, Conida, and others. So I'll invite Rich to join in.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Rich Fraser. I serve as the Senior Technical Advisor for the Federal Geographic Data Committee. So excited also, just wanted to echo that we are finally kicking off this initiative and to see so many people that are interested in this activity and who will also be participating and or contributing as part of it. We think this is going to be a great opportunity to advance the use of a variety of social, economic, environmental, and other data to help support disaster risk resilience and hopefully make our community much better in terms of sustainability related to those activities. Also just want to welcome my colleague. I see that Rich Signell is on, and I'll let him do a quick introduction as well.
Hey folks, yeah, I'm excited to be a part of this. There's so many exciting things happening technology-wise in this space, and it's really, it's really cool to, take these technologies and really apply them to important problems. I think that's really an important way to build out the technology, actually, to make sure that everything is working as we expects it to work, and we solve real problems and then build on that success from there to solve other problems. So I'll just stop there and say I'm glad that we're working as part of this experiment on using these cool, especially cloud technologies and EO things that have recently come up.
Thank you both. We're really looking forward. Well, we've been able to work with both of you for some months now, and we're looking forward to putting some of our discussions into reality. I turn to NRCan and Ryan and or Eve.
Yeah, hi everyone. So my name is Ryan Ahola. I'm an environmental scientist with Natural Resources Canada. So I coordinated our federal department's participation or sponsorship of this work. And certainly I'm happy to see many of my NRCan colleagues joining us today. So for a lot of them, this is their first time being involved in an OGC pilot. So we're certainly excited to get them involved in the work and to start working with everybody. So I suppose just for now, if anyone has any questions at any time during the work for NRCan, you can certainly reach out to me directly, and I can coordinate you to get in touch with the right person. I guess that's about it for now. I did have a short presentation I can do just to provide some context about the department and what we're interested in getting out of the pilot, but we'll certainly go through the other sponsors and
That would be
supporters
great.
first.
Yeah. If you'd like to go ahead with that.
Okay, I can do it now.
You want to just introduce yourself, and then we'll take a look at Ryan's presentation.
Okay. Well, Yves Moisin, I'm a newcomer to NRCan, 3 years now. I just want to underscore the fact that we've got people from UNGGIM Americas participating in this pilot too. So welcome to those people. It's my first actual participation in an OGC event, so I'll just watch and ask questions, I guess. Cheers.
Yeah, we, particularly through the the chat and the online collaboration that I'll detail later, we certainly welcome everybody to participate. I don't think we need to say this because people in these initiatives, stand their ground and express their minds, but there is no stupid question. There's
Yeah, we
just
want to
usually
avoid
questions
people
that we
like me
hadn't
interrupting
thought
all the
about
time
that.
with their cameras.
That's okay. Ryan, I'll make you presenter.
And while Ryan's doing that, Josh, it's Cameron Wilson, Natural Resources Canada, also a sponsor on this, and just very thankful and grateful for all the good people who have dialed into this. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks so much, Cameron.
Okay. Josh, can you just quickly confirm that you can see the presentation?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Okay. So yeah, I just wanted to provide a really quick overview of what our department does, particularly for people outside of Canada who probably have no idea what Natural Resources Canada is. And then just to talk a bit about the goals that we have for the pilot. Before I get into it, I just want to quickly acknowledge that I'm speaking to you today from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, which is part of unceded Algonquin Indigenous territory. So I'd just like to encourage everyone who is speaking to us or joining us from Canada today to reflect on the Indigenous territories that they might be joining us from. So a little bit about the department. So we're at Canada's governance structure is based on a federal structure. So Natural Resources Canada sits at the top within the federal government. We have a really broad mandate, which basically covers anything and everything that you can imagine related to natural resources. So certainly mapping, the branch of NRCan that I'm part of, the Canada Centre for Mapping and Earth Observation is the country's national mapping agency, and certainly all other main focus areas around natural resources, including forestry, anything related to mining, energy, and also energy efficiency, and Earth observation is also a key component for our department. So the high-level departmental priorities, which I'd like to put forward here, as these are priorities that are put forward by the current government of Canada, which NRCan has a responsibility mandate to deliver on. So these considerations are important for basically every type of work that we do, including this pilot. So there's certainly climate change is obviously a major consideration for Canada. In that context, also the Arctic as well, with certainly the major challenges that are occurring in the Arctic around climate change. Trade, we're definitely a small nation, so trade internationally is very important to us. And also Indigenous reconciliation is a major point of focus for and priority for our government today. And lastly, of course, there's disasters and extreme events which are being impacted particularly by climate change and are increasing in frequency. So that's a major focus for our department and the government more broadly, which is where this pilot fits into that. So looking a little bit about what the department does in the context of disasters. A lot of our work is focusing on providing support to other levels of government within the federal level, and also moving down to regional and more municipal levels who really have local on the ground responsibilities. One of our main partners is with Public Safety Canada through the Government Operations Center, which provides a coordinating role for major disaster activities in Canada. So they're participating as a non-member observer in this work, so we'll be collaborating with them in the pilot. Looking at the specific types of activities we do, it's actually fairly broad when you start digging into it. Ranges from wildfire, earthquakes, volcanoes, space weather, also things around nuclear events. So these are very different, diverse things that the department supports that could potentially happen in Canada. For this pilot, we're particularly focusing on two components. So there's data delivery and dissemination through the Federal Geospatial Platform and open maps, and also looking at the Emergency Geomatics Service, which provides intelligence for disaster-related events, mostly related to flooding and also river ice breakup, but they also do some work around geohazards such as landslide monitoring. It is possible for the Emergency Geomatics Service to support other disasters in Canada and internationally, but certainly their focus is certainly on flooding. And I just like to draw your attention, I guess, to the graphic on the right that shows, or the table on the right that shows the different activations that the Emergency Geomatics Service has had over time. And you'll notice that there's an international component. So that's really speaks to the need for interoperability, ensuring that the products that EGS is providing and the data they're using works to support these different needs. So the focus that we have for this work is on flooding. It's the most expensive type of disaster in Canada by quite a bit. It impacts broad areas of the country. So from the East Coast to the West Coast to the North, even in Central Canada as well, there's many areas of Canada that are affected by flooding potentially annually. A lot of this is caused by spring snowmelt and also ice jamming. So part of that is fortunate as we're able to, they're somewhat predictable, but there are other non-predictable events that occur as well. But it's because of the I guess the breadth of the country that can be affected by flood mapping and the cost of it, it's a major priority for Canada. And the graphics that are shown on the right cover the portion of the Red River that we're really interested in. So the Red River is a major flooding area for Canada. It's been flooding for at least 12,000 years since the end of the last ice age. So it's definitely a priority area for us, and it's also of interest to our American colleagues, given that the Red River flows south into the States. So the main goals that we're really looking at achieving here is really improving near real-time disaster information flows through standards throughout all components of a disaster monitoring process, moving from satellite acquisition and discovery and delivery, also through analysis and visualization of EO products and also other related disaster information, and then disseminating products for decision-making at various government levels. So really the two questions that I guess we want to address in here is how can existing standards be better used or structured to help support this, and what new standards are needed to help us achieve this goal. So I mentioned a few requirements that we're interested in. So near real time, obviously, we're really focusing on moving towards API-based solutions that can help with all these processes, particularly delivered through microservices. That's becoming a major focus for our branch, so we definitely like the pilot to explore this. Certainly cloud interoperability, being able to use different cloud systems will be very helpful. Looking at different analysis and visualization support tools by multiple actors will be certainly important. And also considerations around accessibility. So we have web content accessibility requirements that we need to support, and also multilingualism is certainly important for Canada. Just quickly, I'm not going to go through all the different data types. These are just more of a resource for the participants to use if you'd like. So there's a bunch of different data sets and tools that you're welcome to use during the pilot. For the RadarSat constellation mission data, I know that we're working with some of our other government partners to hopefully make some really good RCM data available for the Red River region publicly, so it'll be open data. That's a pending decision, so we'll provide more information about that as it becomes available. that's it. So I hope that helped provide some context. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to address them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Appreciate that view from the north. And there was a comment by Cameron, just to make sure we're aware of which way the water does flow when it's in the channel on the Red River. So appreciate that.
Great presentation, Ryan. I just didn't want to.
No, I should know that. Thank you for the obvious correction. Thank you.
And we realize that, you know, spring ice breakup is not the cause of flooding in all parts of the world, but it certainly counts. So
Actually, Josh,
I'd like to, yeah.
Sorry, just a quick point on that, if I may. I was really impressed listening to everybody's introductions and where everybody is in the world. And I had this little nagging voice in the back of my head when I was hearing the introductions that, you know, there's probably global level requirements here around fire and water. And so there might be a risk in a pilot where things start to stovepipe a little bit around, like when we table our requirements, you know, by saying things like, you know, snow melt and whatnot. But I think there might be, as we work through this, we may see that the data processing and standards are actually quite generic around the globe, irregardless of the type of water or fire issue, whether it's in Europe or India or the Americas or whatever. Just a thought that crossed my mind listening to the introductions.
I appreciate that, and I hope that you'll keep an eye on this activity, because we clearly need to focus on some limited regions and hazards to get some capabilities mounted, but reminding us of the general applicability and what really should be common to other regions and hazards is really important. So I hope you'll keep on us about that.
Thanks, Josh.
Hey, Josh, this is David Green from NASA, if I could have a moment.
Please. Yeah, I was about to invite the Davids. So
okay, perfect. Thank you. Yes, we have Riches and Riches and Davids and Davids. So I want to wear two hats here. The disasters program at NASA, which, as many of you know, NASA data, along with other US satellite agencies, free and open. But that doesn't mean it's always usable. And working with OGC and supporting the effort here, it's really about making sure we can access the data, make it usable, make it ready to use, and ready for decision making in the pilots and demonstrations of particular applications for disaster, to really see it become actionable. And so I very much also look forward to the efforts here, the level of collaboration. And as just noted, we might pilot and demonstrate in certain locations, but the intent here, an underlying intent that we look forward to, is the ability to extend it globally. The interoperability aspects, the ability to extend an understanding, analysis-ready capabilities, shared platforms and interoperable platforms, common ways that we can visualize and interpret for disasters. The transition from previous work with OGC, which we greatly appreciated, to here picking up the challenge that some of us put forward to make it a more user-centric perspective in the next couple of years. And I appreciate how that challenge has been picked up and is a core theme moving forward. So I also want to wear my hat as the working group on disasters chair for the Committee on Earth Observing Satellites, and recognize that many of my partners here from around the world, other space agencies and academic and operational partners are here. The goal of the Committee on Earth Observations very much aligned with OGC and our commitments together for the group on Earth observations. This idea, again, of opening up the science, opening up the data, and really not just creating data, but putting the data to work. So again, thank you, and look forward to efforts going forward here.
Thank you, David. Appreciate your support and viewpoint on this. And we don't have time to cover all of the supporters and collaborators that are taking part in this and have helped bring us to this point of executing the pilot. But I'd like to issue a blanket appreciation, and especially for your continued engagement and support of this activity. I would like to recognize Amazon Web Services, who've been providing support with advice, with cloud credits, with education, and is continuing to do so. Mark, do you want to say a couple of words?
Sure, happy to do that. Yeah, super excited that there's so many people on this call. It's fantastic. I just want to make the point that, my primary responsibility is making sure that everybody that's involved, as much as possible is not constrained by any need for, computed storage, right? So let, innovation happen. And we want to make sure that, any infrastructure needs don't get in the way of that. Anyway, happy to be on the call. Excited to see this moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, let's see. So there are many other supporters and representatives of sponsor groups and collaborating groups, and anyone else. So, for example, from USGS, Dave Blodgett, you're an important sponsor and progenitor of some of the work, particularly the structured data work. So if you want to just say hi and identify yourself, that would be great. And Rob
hey,
Collison as well.
Dave Blodgett here. Sorry, I actually I haven't really been engaged in the project planning to date and wasn't on the invite. I just got teed in here. So I'm with the water mission area at the U.S. Geological Survey, and yeah, so been doing a bunch of work over the years on structured data to establish kind of associations between monitoring, modeling, and environmental and kind of societal features online. So I kind of pushed some of those sorts of use cases in to the work, and kind of hoping to see if we can make progress on getting more disaster relevant, direct kind of user available information into things like the Google Knowledge Panel. When you search for things on the fly, we want to see kind of better integration of the data that folks like the USGS and others hold that's relevant to disaster situations. So
Thanks, Dave, and we'll really look forward to your input and guidance as we attempt to implement some of those capabilities that you've been working to invent and distribute. Okay, any others of the sponsors and supporters group that would like to just say hi at this time? All right. Well, thank you to all of you, and let's then quickly introduce. I'm not going to introduce each of you. You'll do that when we go do our lightning talks, but I'd like to recognize the participants who are going to be making this pilot a reality. And these are organizations that are, receiving in many cases some assistance from the sponsors, but we need to recognize that they're also putting a good part of their resources into this pilot because they believe that what we build and do here is valuable for themselves, but also for others, for OGC, and for the cause of disaster resilience. So I want to acknowledge up front the efforts and contributions that they have pledged to make for the success of this pilot. And apologize that we're still getting some of the paperwork done. For various reasons that's gotten a little delayed, but you will see it soon, and it will be, I think, an authentic combination of the CFP requirements and what each of you has proposed to contribute on the basis of that. And I appreciate that you're here today on the faith that that will happen. Those include RSS Hydro, TerraDue, Secure Dimensions, Skymantic, Storm Center Communications, Crust Technology, HSR, Sat Center, Satellite Center, Pixelytics, GeoSolutions, GS1, Zhejiang University, and I hope you'll correct any awful pronunciations and guide us to do that better. Esri, Wuhan University, Gizmo, Satellogic, ECCC, DLR, JRC, and SAFE. And there are others in various roles or becoming part of the pilot as we go along, and I'll offer my thanks in advance for them as well. So, schedule. What are we going to do and when are we going to do it? So we've moved into, now I'll talk about the logistics of the initiative, the design of the initiative, and try to set things up for each of the participant representatives to describe what it is that they're intending to bring to the table, and that we hope they will succeed at, particularly in working with everyone else. So we've seen already many of these steps, the release of the call for participation, the responses, very heartening responses from a number of organizations, the selection agreements, and now we're at June 21st, 22nd, this virtual kickoff meeting. As I mentioned, the next, so the next sort of workshop, pilot-wide event will be this workshop that we'll have in the middle of July, 14th and 15th, and that workshop will devise, decide on critical indicators, decision-ready information, and look at how that data flow coordination and collaboration that results in the right information at the right time for the right decision makers to be enabled in the pilot ecosystem, and how that can work, that we can get to try. There are another couple of events around this. So next week we'll be having a webinar as information and feedback for the contact group of organizations such as Emergio, UNGGIM Americas, and others that are part of our assistance and advice, and also localized support that the pilot will depend on very much to succeed with. Then in September, we'll have another workshop after we've been figuring out what we're going to implement and implementing it and trying it out in various venues and under various circumstances, focused on implementing the scenarios that were chosen. We'll have a second workshop, and we'll try to work from that experience to develop guidance. And there'll be two kinds of guidance in the two draft guides that will be outcomes of this pilot. One is for providers of data. So if you're a provider of a space-based EO, in situ, other types of data that are important for these indicator products, how can you best be ready to jump in and leverage technology such as cloud processing and applications to the data and so on to make those things possible at the speed that they need to be most useful. And from the user point of view, what do users need to be ready to do to guide the development and the production of those products that are, in many cases, fairly general indicators, such as social vulnerability or a landslide hazard, but always have aspects which are particular to the region and to the event. and making those adjustments so that they are the most useful they can be for the response and relief activities is a critical part of what we're trying to do. Now, then there'll be various targets in the fall. October 30th, the draft pilot report and guides. 18th of November, the final pilot report and guide. There'll be connections with various working groups at OGC so that in the December member meeting, these documents can be approved for public release, and we'll be looking to release those in December. The pilot reports, the guides, and the video segments from all of the participants and others showing an idea of what they've accomplished and what they learned from that and what they feel needs to be done next, because this will be a never-ending domain of activity, even though this particular initiative has a definite schedule. So, project logistics. One of the things that we can do here is to support the online asynchronous distributed collaboration, which has always been a hallmark of OGC trying to reach the largest and widest audience possible with innovation projects, but particularly in the current day and age is valuable if done well to get work done given all of the constraints of time and space and life that all of us face. Yeah, and I can post these links, but I'll have to get out of this. Hold on a second. Good point, Ajay. See if these are useful. And let's see if I can then actually go back into here. And I have to share it again. Okay. And it's unclear what happened here. Okay. There we go. Share. Share something real. All right, I think we should be back here. So we'll go over these logistics in more detail at the first weekly call, but let me just mention some of the collaboration tools that we have available for use by the initiatives, by the participants in the initiative. So the focal point of a project such as the disaster pilot is the portal project. Now you've all seen, I'm sure, the public pilot page. That's information that's publicly available, and we'll keep updating that with information about the progress of the pilot, activities that are going on, and particularly outreach activities that may be of interest to the broader public. But the portal project, which is limited in accessibility to those that are OGC members or have a non-member arrangement to have access to the OGC portal and that have a role to play within that initiative. So those that are staff, that are sponsors, that are participants, or are observers have access to that portal project. And that has calendar, it has files, areas, and other aspects. It also has the links to other collaboration tools such as GitLab, and I'll talk about GitLab in a minute. In particular, there is a kickoff directory under files there, and so the recordings, the slides that I'm showing you here, and any of the other materials that sponsors or participants would like to make sure are preserved and available, for example, for future reference, can be uploaded to that directory. So generally we add, yeah, generally we will add the recordings and so on to that. Now, Mark is reminding me that we're in the process of organizing that access. So the participants and staff are part of that. Those that are OGC members have portal accounts and have signed the observer agreement under the main menu of the portal for this particular project have currently access to the portal project. For those that are not OGC members and have sent me or will send me the non-member observer agreement that was distributed by Gabriela and others, particularly to UNGGIM and Emergio participants. Those will get processed shortly and arrange so that we'll have access which is appropriate to those non-member observer roles. So don't worry about that for now. You're welcome to observe this kickoff meeting and we'll make the arrangements as soon as we can. So there is the portal project, but that's not really the focus of collaboration these days for OGC. So we've quite adopted Git as a distributed repository, but also a distributed collaboration mechanism. And this is implemented in two different packages, two different environments. So probably everyone is aware of GitHub, where there are usually publicly available repositories, and it's possible to access all sorts of open source software and other content through GitHub repositories. So OGC has an organization on GitHub, but largely we use that for publicly available GitHub repositories. So many of the specifications that OGC has standardizes or wants to work on in a more publicly accessible fashion are in GitHub repositories. If as software projects or other content is developed and the participants decide that it's something that they would like to work on in a more visible environment, then that's one way that we can do that, by forming GitHub repositories under the OGC organization. But OGC also hosts itself another version of Git called GitLab, which has many of the same tools and features of GitHub. And there is a GitLab repository which has been set up, one so far. We may set up more than one depending on how collaboration best works in this initiative. But for now, there's one, and that will have a number of tools and areas that we'll work with. So, and that GitLab access is something, as well as the GitHub access, that those that are part of the portal project can opt into. The GitLab includes an area for code, and we'll mainly use that for developing the documents that we'll develop and produce as a part of this pilot, the engineering reports, the guidance documents, and so on. We'll do those using a process and approach that has been developed for OGC initiatives, making use of ASCII doc source documents and the ability to compile those and possibly a large number of files to make sure that the collaboration can run smoothly between multiple authors, and be able to put those together into properly formatted documents in HTML and PDF and so on. So we have common content available through a number of different formats. There'll also be a section in there which is a wiki, so a number of web pages that can be created and linked and edited online. We'll keep track of our meeting activities. We'll keep track of content that people are contributing, which is for working on the pilot. So information on participant components, how to access them and how to work with them. Information on the interchange experiments, where we see how well components, particularly from different participants, mainly and possibly hosted on different clouds, are actually able to work together by the use of the standards and specifications that we have at our disposal. So that'll be the wiki content. And then there is a mechanism for creating, working on, and closing issues. And those issues can be based on the content in the code section. So on sections of document, for example, they can be based on wiki content. And a set of the issues that we will keep open and work, as it were, are actually weekly technical status issues. And each participant will have, for each component, one of these issues that they will add to, comment on in a structured fashion each week, how they're doing, difficulties they run into, how they're planning to address those. And we'll use those for helping to stay on top of things in the weekly meetings, but also for providing feedback on a monthly basis to the sponsors who are helping to fund the project. So they'll more about this as we start the weekly meetings, but those are components that are part of the logistics. So we have weekly web conferences, regularly scheduled in GoToMeeting, and we'll discuss probably tomorrow what would be a good time or times for that. They'll be scheduled on the portal calendar, and reminders will go out as well as that, and that will have all of the features of the GoToMeeting instance that we're using today. The GitLab will use, the portal project will use, and as other collaboration tools and documentation tools become relevant here, and you'll hear from some participants some of the tools and capabilities that they use and are providing, then we'll let people know how they're available and how we'll be able to make use of them. So that's the project logistics, and welcome to get in touch with me to add in the chat or hold your questions for the weekly meeting as we go over the logistics, which are largely for the participants and secondarily for the observers, also for the sponsors to be able to keep track of things, to offer assistance, and to follow along with the work. Okay. So I'm going to go now for a few minutes, and this is again going to be familiar to some people and not enough detail for others, particularly for collaborators in the Americas, organizations that want to follow along and provide their feedback on what their needs and requirements are for both supporting, relieving, and benefiting from disaster operations. I encourage you to join the session we'll have next Wednesday, the 30th of June, and you'll hear more about this. So this pilot has a couple of precursors, and the reports from this are not publicly released yet, but they are available for as resources. So first of this was the Health Spatial Data Infrastructure Concept Development Study. And just briefly, there are different kinds of OGC innovation program initiatives divided by the maturity of the standards or the technology they're working on, the degree to which that is being enhanced or deployed, the length of time, the size of the initiative. So this is a pilot initiative to take what are, for the most part, mature standards and figure out how they can work together for this particular benefit. And there are concept development studies where we don't yet even really understand what the interoperability problem is that OGC can contribute to. And that was the case with spatial data information for health, for personal health, for public health, for population health, dealing with health status and impacts and interventions. So this concept development study identified key categories of data, and basically came up with a draft, conceptual model for the common core of health data that has spatial components to it, spatial and temporal, and can be valuable to share among the population, the government agencies that are concerned with that, and particularly in this study, to be combined with other information so that the twin impacts of disaster occurrences and health situations such as the COVID pandemic can be addressed together. And one or the other is not neglected in the response activities that take place. The second was an EO cloud concept development study. And so that's really looking at how satellite data providers, cloud service providers can use the applications to the data paradigm across multiple clouds to be ready, to be prepared, to be already in operation in some cases when disaster occurs, to use that capability of flexibility and scale and accessibility to make that combination of satellites and Earth observation and cloud computing really valuable in disaster situations. So again, there's a report from that to helped guide the development of the CFP and the implementation of this pilot, we hope. So the goals of this pilot, there are so many hazards, so many regions, so many stakeholders that we would like to provide benefit to from our activities, but we need to focus on what we can provide the most value to for others. So the goals include key components in the value chain and the identified value chain gaps. So what's needed in terms of processing and sharing and so on, so that there's a value chain, as we blithely said, from the eyes in the sky to the feet on the ground and back again, which is the piece that we left out of the catchy phrase. But where are those gaps? What keeps not working as well as it could in disaster situations? And what are the optimal workflows and services that facilitate that and facilitate different stages of that? So particularly ones that have been identified are this analysis ready or integration ready data and decision ready information products that are developed from that integration ready data. And what are the services that support those workflows and provide that value? And the kind of key thought here that we've tried to be guided by is that we keep hearing that so much of response time to disasters, 80% by some estimates, is getting hold of data, arranging licensing, putting it in the right format, doing this integration, and then getting it somewhere. 20% of the time it's actually in front of people so that they can learn from it. And that's where we think that this pilot can do better. At least we'll identify what needs to work better so that this can improve. The scope includes integrating and transforming provider data through these hybrid applications. And we're looking fairly broadly at the data that can be analysis and integration ready. So there are specifications, particularly looking, for example, at optical space-based data. And we'd like to help to advance that specification in terms of that integratability and analysis readiness through concurrent spatial calibration, spatial temporal calibration, optical compatibility, spectral compatibility, and other aspects of what makes data hard to combine and to work with. But also we want to extend this to social, economic, environmental, and particularly health and other data streams. So take a broader view at the same time, and then look at services that can make that data more usable, ARD and DRI services. We're looking at, in this pilot, also at that last mile through the GeoPackage online, offline tools to deal with places that typically or under the circumstances have poor connectivity. How can we help with that? And then how can we turn the larger web, the mainstream web and its search engine optimization to the benefit, particularly of the public, to stay up to date, to stay aware of what's going on, what needs to be done, and what are the opportunities to help themselves and others. Okay, now quickly through this because I want to get to the participants as soon as we can. There are many parts of disaster management, emergency management cycle, incident response, and we've tried in this pilot to focus on those needs that are particularly fast moving and seem to have particular difficulty and that technology looks like it can help with. Technology and the collaboration, making use of that. So the risk and vulnerability assessment and preparation, hazard monitoring, threat prediction, disaster detection and tracking, impact awareness and reporting, and disaster response and mitigation activities, at least supporting those activities, particularly with awareness and status. When we look at how those activities can be supported by information, we find in particular 3 of these pivotal points of interoperability that often don't operate. So there is the stage from data sources to the analysis and processing that analysis-ready data plays a large role in, but other technologies as well. And then the stage from that analysis and processing to decision-ready information. So products that are ready to distribute that are what the responders and the public need. So that's a second pivotal point. And the third one is, okay, how does that actually get to field personnel, first responders, decision makers, relief organizations, in a form and in a timeliness that actually has value. So it's no good if all you get from a very information-rich map is somebody telling you something over the phone. Can we do better than that? Can we do better with keeping people up to date if they're not always in contact in different ways? So these are the 3 areas of interoperability we're going to focus on using these components, made visible, made discoverable by a search and registration component, and supporting these collaboration and decision loops that not just we figured it out, we produced it, and take it or leave it, but actually is responsive to local and immediate needs. So one of the ways we will do that, and this is a particular point of contact with collaborators, the contact groups who fill many of these roles, we've identified 6 user personas who are going to be interacting with this data, with these components, and providing that role and collaboration that we're going to try to address. Those run from the data provider to the affected public, and each of those has some aspect of the pilot that involves them, that requires their engagement and provides them, we hope, some value. So this leads to an initial ecosystem wiring design, and these are the components that the participants have agreed to provide in their own fashion, but according to the requirements that were laid out in the CFP. And those go from these data sources developed into analysis-ready cloud stores, so those data, metadata, and services that are visible in this registry. And those then go through processing and an analysis and modeling to generate the decision-ready information. Again, you know, a storage, metadata, and provisioning service capability that's visible through the registry. That leads to a provisioning capability by building, maintaining, and updating geopackages that enable these mobile awareness and reporting apps. We have then also two other cloud stores and provisioning capabilities that are two-way that have to do with human observations and volunteered information, whether from agencies and organizations or individuals in the public, and particularly health information that tries out this provisional health spatial data infrastructure model and sees where data can fit into that, how then it can be accommodated as well into decision-ready information through the visibility in the registry. The last component here is that visibility through Google and other search engines using structured data and link resolution of physical features. So work that Dave Blodgett and Phil Archer have done that GS1 is going to help us with. We'll hear a little bit more about that, to have identity of physical features and facilities and a way on the web to resolve that into information that's relevant to those features and is structured in such a way that you ask about, you know, what's up with that clinic down the street, and you get right in the search results, you know, there's a bed available. We have these capabilities. This has been closed. You need to evacuate and go to this other facility which is taking its place. So there are ways to address, we hope, all of the personas that are involved. So just speeding up here as well, we were very heartened by 32 responses to the CFP, both formal and informal, 24 requests for cost sharing, 6 in-kind proposals, completely in kind, covering each of the deliverables. And there's I recognized before 13 selections for cost sharing and a number of other organizations coming on their own dime to help us out here. And there's as well the engagement of cooperating, sponsoring, supporting, sponsoring, and contact group organizations. And that group is still evolving, but will over the next weeks, I think, define more concretely their contributions and their engagement in the pilot activity aspects. So at this point, I would like to turn to the participants and let you give us a lightning presentation of your plans for the contributions that you're going to make, component by component. So we'll look at, for example, quickly the documents and just, you know, say a word, introduce yourself, and any thoughts that you'd like to share briefly on how you see this document being organized and who it's going to target for its main audience. And then we'll go through each of the components in turn and get a contribution from each of the participants who've signed up to provide these. I know I'm leaving out some associated organizations as well, and I apologize in advance. As there is time, we'll include you as well, but feel free to, in the chat, provide information on some of the capabilities that you're hoping to provide as an addition to what we can achieve in the pilot. You know, more data is definitely better, depending on the effort that's involved, and that's one of the motivations for pursuing this goal of analysis ready data, is that more data is genuinely more opportunity rather than just more work. So with that, any thoughts from the sponsors or my colleagues that I've left out before we make this switch? Okay, great. So let me invite then, and this is the deliverables list that we're referring to from the CFP. Let me do this switch again, and then I can add that to the, I can try escape. That's not going to work. Okay, never mind. You can find the CFP, I think, and the deliverables list there to follow along, but I've included the excerpts from that. So Satsen, would you like to just introduce yourselves? If you're willing to, turn on your camera, say hi, and tell us something about the summary ER. So Satsen and Satellogic.
Hi, Josh, can you hear me?
I can.
And you can see me, I think.
Yes.
Okay, I'm Omar Barrero from Satsen. I'm here connected with Adrian Luna, Satsen also. We have prepared some short slides about an introduction of Satsen. I don't know if you want us to do it now or.
Why don't we wait till the component, and we'll share the slides for describe the component contributions. So
okay,
just say a word about the summary and the provider readiness documents.
Okay, no, so basically the idea is that we have a previous experience in a pilot, in the Earth observation application pilot. And for us there, we made the engineering report together with all the partners. And basically what we expect here with this component, with the deliverable, is not something that we are going to do by ourselves directly, but we are going to be a kind of, we can organize this, but we expect contribution for all the partners. And in part, in Satsen, we have experience working with decision makers for taking of requirements. So I think that the best idea that we have with this is to participate in all the telcos, to have the ideas clear, and also to collect the feedback and the contributions from the different partners to generate this engineering report, and also for the provider readiness. I don't know if we have a different view on this, but we think that this is more a task that it is common for all the partners. It's not only a partner, always a partner have to organize it a little and to contribute more, but we expect contributions for all the people in here in these documents.
That's great, thank you. Satellogic, I just saw you briefly.
Hello, Josh.
Tony, welcome.
Could you hear me?
Yes, we hear you and see you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. We are pleased that you have chosen us for this opportunity and to provide this information to you. My name is Tony. I am remote sensing engineer at Satellogic. And well, later I will show you some of our contribution. And mainly at this point, I would like to highlight that we are working nowadays with, well, among all the users and clients that Satellogic has, there are 3 specific customers that used to work with high availability disaster recovery. And those are the International Disaster Charter, the Japanese Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transportation, and also the NISA Disaster Program, specifically for the volcanoes in Latam. This provides us some experience working in this specific disaster projects, and we would like to contribute with our knowledge in the production of satellite imagery, and specifically for very high resolution imagery multispectral that has a specific characteristics, and that's mainly what we are going to provide, working with our data scientist group and the remote sensing team, and specifically providing this guidance and also a platform that is compliant with all the specific OGC needs.
Well, that's great. Thank you. It's very good to meet you, and welcome to the pilot. How about the structured data ER schematics?
Thank you. Good morning, Josh. Good morning, everyone. So first of all, thank you so much for this opportunity. In the structured data ER, we're going to be documenting the usage of linked data within OGC APIs to generate structured web page data for search engine optimization of disaster-related information. So as you were just showing, Josh, D109 is going to be the big component that's going to be working on this. So we're going to definitely be documenting very good what happens in that component. But it's not only that component, but also the interactions of that component with the other components. So all the things that have to do with the usage of linked data are going to be reflected in this document. So you should be expecting having, in this ER, the traditional chapters, the summary, the background, but then there's going to be a very good description of that component and then a good description of all the interactions. Finally, we're going to be capturing all the lessons learned, all the challenges, all the future recommendations regarding the usage of linked data. And this document is going to be very useful for the entire community because we know that other domains are also looking at linked data to enhance their own APIs. And it's also going to be good for the development of APIs because there's also some discussions in the API development world. So we really look forward to having this ER created.
Thanks much, Sergio. We're looking forward to it. Pixelytics.
Hello.
Hello, Sam.
So, hiya. So we're responsible for deliverable 4, which is the guide on preparing and coordinating cloud computing platforms. I'm going to be working on this with my co-founder, Andy, who's also my husband. And the idea really is that I'm the Earth observation expert, and I've been using and developing algorithms over 30 years. Whereas Andy got dragged into the company, really, to do the admin side. But also we ended up co-authoring a book together, which was introducing non-technical users to Earth observation. And it seems to have sold quite well. And at some point we'll have to update it because fortunately it came out before the Sentinel mission, so it has limited information on those. But my thought on writing this guide really is it has to address not only the technical people, but also the non-technical people as well, for it to be much more broadly useful. So the plan is to develop it in ASCII doc format in the GitLab, but I'm equally expecting that will also cause people problems. So there will be a version on there for people who know what they're doing and want to interactively work on it, but we'll also think about how else to share it for those who don't want to get involved technically in that way. And we'll have both more formal reviews alongside the informal feedback. And then we also put a video as well to support the guide going forward. So I'm looking forward to working with everyone. And I wrote a few slides, but I'll upload them to the portal so people can look at them afterwards.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and so good point that we really will be looking to our contact group for feedback and input on making these documents, particularly the readiness guides, valuable, really usable with practical information. So I appreciate your to focus on making that broadly accessible. So let's go to the next component. And I apologize, we'll be going, oh, and this just stays there. That's wonderful. Serves me right there to try drawing on the slides. So the ARD component is really the gateway for Earth observation and other data to be put into a form that's compatible with the other components. And so because we want to work with a wide variety and really look at what are the different approaches to arriving at accessible, discoverable, analysis-ready data, there are a whole list of contributors there. So why don't we go down the list top to bottom, and let me know if you want to show a couple slides in your 5 minutes, but this is a lightning presentation for each of you. Guy, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, I can. This is Guy. Hi. I try to switch on my camera so people can see me actually. Hi.
Yeah.
I recognize many of you, so I'm very glad that we can be part of this. I say we because this is with my colleague and friend Albert Kattner at the DFO University of Colorado. So he's an individual member of OGC, and Arsa Sidra is a member of OGC. I just try and share a few slides, but now I realize, you know, maybe screen sharing is not my forte. So,
well, you give it a try if you'd like.
Yeah, I tried to. Okay,
we'll all get better at this
here. Yeah, great. Okay, let me see if that works. There you go. Share. Try to do this. Can everybody see it? I think that's it,
yes,
right?
Yes, we can. Yep.
Great. So just very quickly, I mean, this is for the analysis ready data component as just mentioned, and it's the 1014. And I don't want to go over this because this is basically what has been copied out of the RFP, but we will provide the data streams, Albert and myself, that are, you know, hopefully in, well, not hopefully, but in ARD format, and most of these data are going to go through a list. They are in interoperable format already and ARD, and have been used in previous pilots, as well as we will introduce a couple of new ones. So these are very flat focused, and a lot of work went into this with NASA support over many previous years, and working with the Dartmouth Flood Observatory. So we have at the Dartmouth Flood Observatory what we call the DFO flood layers of events. And so every time there's an event somewhere on Earth, the DFO is trying to map those with Earth observation data. This could be Sentinel-1 data, could be MODIS, Landsat, and sometimes even high resolution commercial imagery. And so then there's also NOAA VS, the operational flat map layer with daily availability. There's then also the DFO satellite microwave radiometry based river discharge estimates. That's a merge between a hydrological model and satellite radar signals, essentially. So we also have access to global flood hazard model layers that we could share. These are statistical flow return period inundation computations, let's say, and they are in probabilities, and a lot of those are, you know, geotiff and cloud optimized, and can be shared as somewhat already ARD ready. But of course, we will work towards making those in a format that people here would like to see in their services. There's also then the ECMWF, for example, numerical weather prediction model that provides rainfall forecasts and other rainfall reanalysis data that is also probabilistic, and we can make those available. And then there's the NASA DPM iMerge 3-hour rainfall estimates that is also available, and we're very much experienced with all those data in many projects and OGC testbeds. So we're happy to share those, make them available. One important note, I'm going to go through this very quickly and then let Albert talk a little bit about oh no, I'm going to wait for the other components, sorry. So this is an important note. As I said, they are mostly ARD formats already and interoperable data formats. We have been using some of those in the previous disaster pilot of OGC. So if you're going to go to this link, you can watch a short video showing you a little bit what is this. And we're happy to work with Skymantics and many others to give them the data in the form that they want. Could be probabilistic categories in the data, could be EO event-specific data. And also we can, of course, provide those data for Canada and the Peru case studies, but also for any other location. It's global data sets. All of these data that I've just listed are globally available and at various resolutions. So as I said, some of these have been showcased in 2019 by us. So go to this YouTube video and have a look. It's not the best video, but it shows you what data, a little bit of flavor of the data. I think that's it. Yeah, the other part of the slide is for the other component that we do provide in kind. So the one I just went through was the cost share one, and there's another one we're going to provide in kind. So thank you.
Great, thank you. And so quick note that Marie-Françoise was reminding us that if possible, rename yourself in the people window and add your affiliation at the end of your name. In fact, you can usually do that in the GoToMeeting user profile or preferences so that happens each time. That with
that's right. Sorry,
wonderfully large group, that's fantastic. That it's helpful to understand the organizations that are being representative. With that said, Fabrice or Pedro, would you like to?
Yes, it will be. It will be Josh, Fabrice.
Okay.
Oh. Let me share Chrome. Okay, I guess that you see my browser window with my presentation, right? That's wonderful.
Yep, we see
so
that.
Let me hit present. So format checking, you see the full screen without anything cut, right? Okay, so yes. Well, thank you for joining. This is a pleasure for us to participate in this pilot. And the asset that we bring in this occasion is the geohazard exploitation platform. And let me introduce you that. Well, the context of the geohazard exploitation platform is a cloud-based platform using virtualization and federation of geodata to provide services and support for the geohazards community. So it is actually a platform combining data, computing resources, plus expertise from several domains to create EO services. And the services that we are offering through this platform is either the on-demand or systematic processing services and access to large EO data sets, so hundreds of terabytes of EO data, from also legacy missions. The legacy missions could be historical missions such as URSS and Envisat, and other missions such as ALO, SPOT, Pleiad, Cosmos, Chimera, TerraSARIX under the CEO's work group for the disasters and the super sites national initiatives. Okay, so next slide. So JEP was designed in the context of the Geohazard Super Sites Initiative and also the CEO's Disasters Working Group. So the user-driven model for the partnership and community building behind that was started from the International Forum on Satellite EO and Geohazard organized by ESA and GEO in Santorini almost 10 years ago now. So JEP was born in 2015, so we have 6 years of experience and continuous development of the community and processing services, and also the assets behind it, whether it could be EO data, cloud computing resources, or services coming from the community, from the experts in the geohazards domain. So, okay, today there are 25 plus on-demand services using optical and SAR data grouped by thematic apps organized by community managers. So it is really driven and built for the community. And the fact that this platform supports a systematic and event-triggered services delivering continuously updated information about areas being monitored, may it be a volcano, tectonic area, or a flood event or an eruptive event, things like that. Those we can target those areas and have them contextualized with Earth observation data and downstream services. So, of course, this service portfolio grows with the new initiatives and projects. It is not a static portfolio. This is a look of the web interface that is used as a community portal for the processing services, but this is only a piece of what the JEP offers, because it exposes APIs that can be consumed by different services and in a B2B approach as well. So a few takeaway message about the geohazards exploitation platform. So with JEP, the geohazards community benefits from fast access to your data, storage capacity, and processing resources. And then JEP is driven by a partnership that needs the support of scientists and developers to offer operational services, providing the value-added information to the community. And of course, it offers a collaboration and reproducible knowledge to promote innovation and response capacity. So in terms of the pilot, what we target to propose here is to take the Earth observation data and pre-processes to different levels. So it could be, when we say pre-process, it could be backscatter, coherence, interferometry, or reflectances, indexes, and a lot of downstream services and products that can fit in other downstream analysis. And the goal here is to produce this data in such a format that it can be easily consumed, either considered as an analysis-ready data or a cloud processing-ready data, such as relying on Stack plus COG to allow an easy access to those data assets. So this is what we are focusing our collaboration in the pilot on. Okay, so thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, Fabrice. Let me turn things over to Zhejiang University.
Yeah, Josh, I'm here. Just wait for one moment. Okay.
Okay.
Can you see my slides?
Yes, we see your screen.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Josh. I'm Feng Zhang from Zhejiang University, China, and the person joined this component, including me and one postdoc, one PhD student, and one undergraduate. In order to respond quickly to disasters and reduce losses, we needed timely, reliable, and wide-ranging data. Remote sensing data and fundamental geographic data are all important data sources for disaster analysis. So it is necessary to have efficient interoperability between various components. We think the problem is how to carry out a highly scalable storage and efficient retrieval, preparation and loading of large-scale data. So what we want to contribute is to propose a unified storage model suitable for multi-source data, build a dynamic organizational framework, and provide cloud storage and data services. and a set of unified data access API standards. The ARD dates have the characteristics of volume, velocity, variety. Distributed storage is best selection to manage structured, unstructured, and semi-structured data. So this component is a bridge between data and information, which not only serves the data provider, but also supports the demands of data query, analysis, and visualization. The deliverables include these 3 points. The first is adaptive data storage model of ARD data for disaster response to build a canonical, shareable, and global data model. The second is a dynamic and hierarchical management framework of EO data based on multi-dimensional data queue. Research for multidimensional supervision strategy, unified coding, and dynamic hierarchical organization based on spatial temporal characteristics to realize the auto data flow and auto division of audit in time. Spatial temporal asset catalogs is specifications provide a common language to describe a range of geospatial information so that it can be more easily indexed and discovered. Based on this, what should we do is to meet with the needs of disaster, and also this is what we want to focus on. The third part is a set of unified data access APIs. Data access API is compatible with cloud storage and based on block storage device and object storage device or like file storage. And based on static STAC, we think there are something we should do to adapt the disaster response. For adaptive data storage model, disaster-related attributes also needed to be noticed. It is necessary to analyze spatial temporal characteristics, classification, correlation, and disaster features to achieve logical and consistent expression of data. For cloud-based storage needs to study the organization, access method, and access structure of disaster data to achieve efficient access. For the dynamic hierarchical management framework, we think for the needs of emergency response, considering time, space, and the frequency of the disaster data, it is necessary to study the image division method of time, space, and data polarity. Disaster state is complex and disorderly, and it is necessary to build a concise, efficient, and scalable space-time coding system to achieve orderly organization to support rapid response to disaster emergency. In terms of cloud-based storage, it is necessary to formulate data migration strategies for disaster data merging, fragmentation, and flow, so as to realize the dynamic data migration according to data popularity and the load of storage resources, and solve the problem of dynamic organization and efficient accessibility of disaster data. This is the project scheduling.
So, Zhangfang, we should move on because we've got a lot of people to cover, and you'll return for the next component. But we should go on to the next contributor, if it's okay.
Okay. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's turn to Esri. Adam, is that you?
Yes, hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So in short, we've been already working with the CONIDA team on enabling Perusat as cloud optimized imagery, working with AWS where that data is already being kind of managed at some level. And so we are working on bringing Perusat into the ArcGIS image service model. And for those who aren't familiar with that, that is our data model for handling, over 100 different types of image sensors, aerial, drone, satellite, where we read metadata and create a catalog within the service, as well as embed certain processing functions, raster processing functions in the server for server side on the fly processing. So through our image service model, we'll provide an API to the ArcGIS image service. Like I said, that allows you to get a lot of pre-processed raster functions, including NDVI and over a dozen others, depending on the sensor that you're reading, as well as providing OGC services on the top of that. And interacting with the other components around the registries and catalogs. Stack is something that can be layered on top of the Esri image service, so we can provide a Stack API on top of the image services if desired, and or we can also consume the Stack API and transform that to the image service so that you get some of these other capabilities. So we're focused a little more on the Perusat side initially, but we also provide the same model for Landsat 8 and Sentinel-2 data and other NASA and European sensor data, and as well as have a service for streamflow forecasts. And my colleague Steve Cope, who's the real expert on all of these components and data and the whole ArcGIS image system, he's actually at the GeoGLOS meeting right now, or GeoGLAM meeting, but he'll be intimately involved with this. And as part of our participation, we're also going to be looking at just the entire kind of ecosystem of componentry and how, our approach to combining some of those different components into one service to really allow for exploratory analysis and high performance exploratory analysis without taking as many steps, and try to look at that in the context of the componentry architecture that's been laid out as part of the pilot, and see understand what are the trade-offs for those approaches. And we're excited to be part of it. So, thanks. See if I can unshare here.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you, Adam. Appreciate
okay,
that and look forward to the participation. We turn to Wuhan now.
Hi, Josh. This is Lei Hu. So I'm trying to share my screen. So does anyone can see my screen?
Yes. Looks
okay,
good.
So right. Okay, so also hi Josh, hi everyone. This is Lei Hu from Wuhan University. So I'm here on behalf of Professor Peng Yue. So Professor Peng Yue was supposed to give this presentation, but he has emergency, so he couldn't be here. I will try to convey his message. So firstly, I will just give a brief introduction to our team. And we have Professor Peng Yue as the primary business and technical POC. And we also have a couple of talent researchers here. I think most of them are on the call. And so totally we have 5 PhDs and 4 masters will enroll this pilot and do the implementation. So I would just invite you to open the camera when I'm talking, if you want. So yeah, for this component, so what we can provide, so basically 3 parts. And first part is the automatic cloud-enabled ARD dataset loading and ingestion, so which including the Landsat series and the Sentinel, and also the Gaofen satellites datasets. So here we have some experience with this. Including the space, time, and other semantic properties. So here we will just do it based on our GeoCube platform. And the third one is the data service in some of the AOI, including the DEM and other demographic data. So so here, yeah.
There's something wrong with your slide.
All right. So something wrong with my slide.
Yeah, it's the DRI component on our screen.
So sorry about that. So maybe I can show my screen again.
Oh, you have another slide. Okay. Yep.
All right. So
analysis ready data component. There we go.
Okay. So sorry about that. So yes. Let me just continue. So yeah, because we made this slide based on the template of testbed, so it looks just similar with this. So the milestone is just like we made it based on the main milestone. So we probably will provide the capability of the data ingestion and access from the EO providers, and also provide some pre-processing and the of the specific scenario. Also the ARD datasets through the OGC web service. And we did have some questions like what EO dataset should we support specifically, and also the data format delivered to other components. So I think the challenges for us might be the uncertainty of the pre-processed data, because some of the data we are not familiar with. So here are some related work. So this is a GeoCube platform, which is a geospatial data cube platform implemented by our group. So it can support the multiple data accessing, including the Landsat and OSM data, and also can support the raster and the vector data ingestion, and multiple multi-dimension data query, and also the data processing use the distributed computing technology. And another related work would be the semi-automatic generation of the ARD using workflow. So we have the interface for the special temporal queries and parallel downloadings for the open EO providers, and also have the pre-processing workflow for both the optical and the SAR imagery. So I think that's it. It's again, it's really happy to collaborate and enroll this pilot again.
Thank you, Lehu, and I hope everything is well with Pongyue, and we'll look forward to all of your participations. So that makes it noon in Boston time here, and I had promised a 15-minute break here. It's possible we won't get through everyone's presentation by 2 o'clock, and we'll ask at that time if people can stay longer to make sure that we cover what we need to. But for now, let's take a 15-minute break. So we will reconvene and continue, I think, with Gizmo's presentation at 12:15. So this will stay open. So you can stay logged into the web conference, but we will return to continue at 12:15.